Hi, it's Dr. Christine Sauer here with Ron Williams on Healthy Alternatives, Your Quality of Life. Welcome. Today, I'm very fascinated to have one of the country's leading experts in exercise physiology, diet and nutrition, and fat loss on my show. Oh, I need that. His unique approach to education and inspiring philosophy combines being healthy physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. Awesome. Welcome to the show, Ron.
Thank you so much. Glad to be here with you.
Same here. Now tell me a little bit about how the heck did you get into fitness and all around wellness?
Well, actually, fitness has been a part of my life since I can remember. I remember running track in sixth and seventh grade and playing football as a youngster. So it's really been a part of my life for, like I said, as far as I can remember.
Wow. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Indianapolis, Indiana.
And how were the conditions when you were growing up?
Well, the conditions I grew up in were very humble. They were quite impoverished, I would say. And I grew up in the ghetto. And what comes with the ghetto is a mentality. It was the Black ghetto, so it's a mentality that comes along with it, that if you're ever to get out of it, you have to leave the mentality behind.
What is that mentality you're talking about? That I can't do it?
Well, this mentality is a very impoverished mentality. It's a instant gratification. Um, Everything looks bleak and dim. It's a negative mentality, and it's a vicious cycle. It goes from one generation to the next, and it
Yeah.
has many cultural um, arrows that shoot into it. For one, I'll just give you an example. Like
Oh,
where I grew up from, where I grew up at, it was the mother would get on welfare, and then there would be a trend, and then the next generation would do the same thing. The next generation would do the same thing. You would have a bunch of kids and single parent homes. There was a lot of gang violence, a lot of shootings, so many different things like that. And the thing about it is, it's a culture within a culture, and it's hard to get out because you don't know what you don't know. And what you do know is what you're used to. And so it makes it hard to actually move away from that.
wow. I really like the way you're stating that without any accusations, just as a fact, because when I see people, whatever color their skin may be, many of them are in the same box, sometimes self-inflicted, where they can't get
Absolutely.
out of their own box. And you
Absolutely.
experience it as a cultural phenomenon. That's awesome. I mean, looking back, it is awesome that you got out of it.
Yes. And one thing, what you mentioned about this box, see, this box, in order to get out of the box, you have to be, I had to hate the condition I was in enough to be willing to step outside of this box,
Mhm.
because I was stepping into the unknown. And
Mhm.
you're afraid of what you don't know. Even though you know your circumstance is painful, at least you can navigate it. You're used to it, and you know how to control it. But
Mhm.
when you step outside, you just don't know what's out there. So I had to get sick and tired of this box enough that I'd rather die than stay here.
Wow. So how bad was it really? What was the worst of it?
Well, I didn't, to be honest with you, I really didn't know how bad it was until I got out. I just knew I didn't like life the way it was.
Mhm.
I was raised as at 3 years old, I was dropped off and given away as a baby to a babysitter. And I was molested as a child. I was beaten as a child, but I didn't know other kids didn't experience this either, because it was my life. It was all I knew. And I knew that the pain was so great, crying for my mother, wanting my mother to be there. And after being molested, remembering being in the bathtub, scrubbing my skin with a scrub brush with bleach in the water, trying to get the dirt off. And I just couldn't get the dirt off, and just being in that environment, always fighting, always, and I was depressed for 28 years of my life. And I didn't know I was depressed because it was so common that it became my norm.
So what was the first step to make you get outside, to actually get the decision going or actually do the thing that you were so afraid of? What
Well,
did you have to do?
one thing is I had a repetitive dream from a child. Otherwise, because I was suicidal as a kid. I remember trying to commit suicide at the age of 13. I was suicidal as a kid, but the only thing that really kept me alive is I had a reoccurring dream that I would do something great. And it was the thing that I believe kept me alive. And at 28 years old, I had a supernatural encounter with God. And that's the only thing that changed my life. It helped me to think different. And it made me realize that if I didn't change my life, if I didn't change my mind, I could never change my life. I had to change my thought process of who I thought I was, because as a man thinketh, so is he. And I thought all of the things that those people told me. You're dumb, you're stupid, you're an idiot. My circumstances said that I was unworthy of any more than I was getting. So I expected nothing, and that's what I got.
What happened then?
Then I had an encounter with God where he actually spoke to me for the first time, and told me that I was fighting against an enemy that I couldn't defeat. And that enemy was a spirit. So I needed the spirit in order to overcome it. And that spirit was the Holy Spirit. And I asked him to give it to me. And from that moment forward, I began to read the scriptures and began to believe the scriptures. But when I believe what the scripture says, they say, I'm the head and not the tail, the above only, not the beneath. I can do all things through Christ that strengthens me. I started believing this stuff. And when I started believing different, I started seeing different. And when I started seeing different, I started acting different.
That is great. So what happened then? You acted different. What did you do differently?
Well, everything was different. I realized that this growth that I was getting, that I could no longer live where I was living, because it kept pulling me into areas and pulling me back into things that I used to think about and I used to do. So I really believe, I'm a firm believer that you become a product of your environment. So I had to get out of that environment, as you talked about, get out of that box and move somewhere else outside of that environment so that I could experience a different culture and a different way of life. So what I ended up doing is leaving Indianapolis, Indiana, and I moved to Salt Lake City, Utah. Man, the environment is so different here.
I guess
And
so.
I've been here ever since. And I've been here probably a little over probably 30 years.
Wow. Why Salt Lake City?
I have no idea. I came here once and I did a workshop. And that workshop was a bodybuilding workshop. And I began to look around. I saw how clean it was here. I saw the mountains. It looked like another planet, really.
Yeah.
And I went back to Indiana and thought, if there was any place in the world I would want to live, it would be a tropical island. But I ended up moving back to Utah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what did you do then in Utah?
Well, in Utah, I don't know if you knew this, but I am a 21-time world champion. I won the Mr. Universe 7 times, the Mr. World 7 times, and the Mr. Olympia 7 times.
Ah,
Right now, I'm also a life coach, because everything that I've learned through the years, I'm so passionate about being free from where I was at. I want to help other people get free. There are a lot of people that I identify with, especially, and it seems like a lot of them are women, because of the being molested as a child. That it says that 1 out of every 3 women are raped or molested.
yeah.
And 1 out of every 4 men are, but men don't like to talk about it. They feel
Women don't
demeaned.
either. They really, sometimes it takes years and years to come out or even remember what happened.
Yes. That is strange you said that, because there are some years of my life that I completely forgot. I mean, I
Mm.
can't remember when I was 4, 5, and 6, but I remember when I was 3.
Hmm.
That is amazing. And they say when that happens, there's a something traumatic must have happened, and your
Mm.
brain shut it off for survival purposes.
Yeah, and put it away so because it's so horrendous.
Yeah.
Wow. I must have seen you in a picture because when I was still living in Germany in the 90s and in early 80s, my ex-husband, he was a bodybuilder and taekwondo guy, and he loved those magazines, Mr. Olympia, Joe Wilder, Gold's Gym. I'm pretty
Yes.
sure a picture of you was in there.
Absolutely. You know what? Back in that in the time when you were in Germany, I was in Germany. I
Yeah.
competed in Germany. That's where I actually
Wow.
started my career. I won 13 titles in Germany.
Wow, good for you. You must have had one definition.
Well, you know what? What most people didn't understand is that I really didn't enjoy winning.
Yeah.
I didn't enjoy winning, but I hated losing. I hated losing more than I enjoyed winning, because losing said that everybody was right. If I took second place, that meant I was second rate.
Wow.
So I had to win. It was my life, it was my family. When they would applaud and they would say, "Oh, you did such a great job," that was the world accepting me. But
Uh-huh.
if they gave me second place, I felt like they made me, second best, second rate person. I didn't know the difference
Yeah.
between the
So
two.
did you ever end up second or third place?
Very, very, very seldom. Very seldom. But there was a few times I did end up second place, sometimes even third place. That was very, very rare, because I trained differently than everybody else trained. It was my life. It was a sport to most people,
Yeah.
but for me, it was life or death.
Yeah. Yeah. So how did you feel when you ended up third place? Just curious. Did it really make you feel bad?
Bad is an understatement.
I guess so. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow, but you are now in the International Natural Bodybuilding Association's Hall of Fame
Yes, yes.
now. And I hear you have a big family. Tell us about it.
Well, I have a huge family, because, and some people think, "Oh, that is so great," but it wasn't so great in the beginning, because here I was. One thing about the Black ghetto is that, because there's not a lot of financial, um, uh, well, I'll just say it's really impoverished. And because of that, oftentimes the entertainment was the sexual relationship between the male and the female.
Mm.
And so there was a lot of entertainment going on. I ended up with 6 kids and 22 grandkids. My wife and I have 4 kids. Well, they're her 4 kids. I have 6. She has 4. But my 6 kids ended up with giving me 22 grandkids
Wow.
among the 6. So, but that becomes a form of entertainment. It's not sacred. It's not something that is special. And I had to learn about that after I left the ghetto, that this was not meant for entertainment.
Yeah, not just no. Now, question for you. You must have gone through many really tough times even after you left the ghetto. Tell us about just one episode.
Well, I remember leaving. I quit my job. I knew I had to leave, but I didn't know that if you quit your job, you couldn't get unemployment. Quit my job, moved to Salt Lake City, and I started personal training in Utah. And one of the tough times that I had was finding clients. I had to learn how to talk to people. One thing I didn't understand was, growing up, communication is a skill that you learn in your home, by talking to your siblings, talking to your parents. I never really had a good source or foundation of knowing how to communicate.
Mm.
Most people would call me shy, because I didn't communicate well. I didn't know how to. I wasn't taught to. I wasn't trained that way. And so I had to learn how to communicate. I remember having a client that at the end of the month when he was supposed to pay me, I have bills to pay. He says to me, I don't have any money, but I have a VCR and a TV that I can give you. And I thought, I can't pay my bills with a VCR and a TV. So it was really tough in the beginning getting reputable clientele. And after a while, being here, learning how to communicate, learning how to deal with different people, I began to develop a clientele where I didn't even advertise. I would send people to other people because I had so many clients.
What is your preferred method of helping your clients change?
Preferred method. One of the things that I'm really good at, and that is analyzing people. That meant my life. I had to know what you meant when you said, hey, Ron, I love you. What does that mean? I'm going to take advantage of you. Exactly what do you mean when you say you love me? So I'm really good at judge of character, analyzing people. And one of the things I do, I listen to what they say and I find out what their goals are. Then I back into it and we begin to troubleshoot. That's one of the things I think God gave me as a gift, is to troubleshoot, to find out the root of the problem. Never, ever deal with the symptoms, but go to the root, kill the root, and the problem diminishes. Sort of like a dandelion. If you cut the dandelion down, it comes back. You go to the root of it, kill the root, the flower goes away. So my goal is to get to the root, the source. I always say this, doctor, and that is, if someone can trigger you, there is a gun somewhere in the vicinity, and all you need is a bullet to get an explosion. And so if you can't find out if you can't find out the root of the problem, then let's go to the trigger. Because if we can find the trigger, we can troubleshoot and find the root.
That is a great analogy. Thank you for that so much. So what do you do now? How do you work with your clients? What's your favorite way to do that?
Well, one is like I just came back from Georgia, where I started with a new client. She's a pastor of a church, and she's struggling with being overweight. And she struggled with it her whole life. I go back and I look at the pictures of when she was a child. I find out her relationship with her father, her relationship with her mother, her relationship with her siblings, to see if there's any sibling rivalry. Find out if there are any cortisol releases, because cortisol creates excess body fat. And I want to find out if there are any cortisol releases. And if we can get rid of the cortisol release, sometimes the only thing they can do to get rid of that cortisol release is to forgive whoever the perpetrator was that caused that situation. And many times they don't want to do that. They don't want to forgive. They feel like, I have a right not to forgive, not realizing that's destroying something inside of them, and that's perpetuating the problem. So we get rid of those common things. I look at their diet and nutrition, see if they have anything that's creating this extra body fat, like xenoestrogens or estrogen mimickers, what type of water they're drinking. I found there are more than 75 reasons why people carry excess body fat. So we have to figure out which ones belong to you. And if we can reverse those reasons why you're carrying the body fat, then the body fat has no right to live there. And when I teach on that, I teach, one of the things I tell them, it's like having a squatter in your house. In order to get that squatter out, there's some legal things that you have to go through to get that squatter out. You can't even just go to the police and say, hey, this squatter's living in my house. Can you tell them to leave? There are some legal things that you have to do. If body fat is there, it is like a squatter. It is an unwanted entity that's living in your house, your body, and you don't want it there. Are you just going to let it live there, or are you going to evict it? Well, there's some legal things that you can do to make that body fat leave and not come back. But we've got to find out why it's there, and then we've got to implement the means of getting rid of it.
You have to file an eviction notice to your body fat. Oh my
That's
God, I
right.
love that, Ron. What a good thing to say. I love the way you teach. And I understand as a bodybuilder, especially as a champion bodybuilder, you know all about body fat because before a competition, you have to reduce it to the minimum possible.
That's right. But what I
Wow.
didn't understand is that I used to think I was so wrong and so naive for so many years. I thought people that carried body fat were lazy, they weren't disciplined, and they just didn't want to get rid of it. But what I realized is that the people that carry the extra body fat, they're the only reason a lot of these programs stay in existence. They are disciplined. They do have a lot of willpower. That's why they keep doing these programs. The problem is they don't have the solution that they need in order to get rid of the body fat and then keep it away. They have to have the right mindset is so important. Changing the way you feel about the body fat, changing the way you feel about food. Food is not an enemy, it's a friend, but it's how you eat it and how you eat the right combinations to work for you, employing the right energy systems so that you can get rid of that body fat. And so I had to see it altogether different so that I could help those people that I love so much.
Well, that's awesome because I don't know if you've seen old pictures of me. At some point, I was 315 pounds myself. So,
Really?
yeah, I actually had gastric bypass surgery myself.
Wow.
And so I know how it feels to be judged that way.
Yeah.
And I know how it feels to go to a restaurant and not fit in the chair because the armrests are too close.
Oh, wow.
How embarrassing.
Yeah.
Or in an airplane, the worst thing in my life that happened. We flew in an airplane. I was big, my husband wasn't small, but I had to ask for a seatbelt extension. So I asked the
Wow.
stewardess for a seatbelt extension. And that woman, I won't call her name, but I did in my mind then, she hollered through the hallway, the woman needs a seatbelt extension.
Oh, my.
I wanted to land right away.
How insensitive.
Yeah.
Wow. But I have what you call the 100-pound club, where we have at least 15 or 20 people that's lost over 100 pounds. Some of them 180 pounds. I mean, it is really amazing.
Amazing. How long did they keep it off? That's the thing.
Well, one girl, well, that's the key. They keep it off because one of the things we train is as we're going through the process of losing the body fat, there's a mindset and a mentality. When you start off, it's a program. It's Ron Williams' program, and it turns into your lifestyle. See, a program can be propelled by willpower, but then we've got to change from willpower to lifestyle. Then we've got to go from lifestyle for a lifetime. And that all changes in your head. You have to change your thought process.
Wow, Ron, you are such an inspiration. So if somebody listens to that and they said, oh my God, Ron, I have to contact him. What's the best way to contact you? I know I have your links. They will be underneath the video and on the podcasting side. What's the best way?
Well, one is just our Facebook, our email address, our website, which is Iron Chessmaster, excuse me, ironchessmaster.com, ironchessmaster.com. We also developed exercise equipment. I create exercise equipment, which is really amazing. Or they can go to support at ironchessmaster.com would be awesome.
Okay, I encourage everybody to do that. Thank you so much, Ron, and I'm looking forward to talking to you again.
Well, thank you so much. And I'm really inspired by your story. I'm going to go back and listen to it again.
Thank you. That's so kind of you.